Hello and welcome to Brewers Daily, part of the Fan Arch Podcast Network. This episode is brought to you by Kalshi. Use code FANARCHBASEBALL to get $10 when you trade 10 on Kalshi. I'm Dave Gasper. Lots to get to here on a Wednesday show. The Brewers are in first place in the National League Central, back in their rightful place as they have taken 2 of 3 from the Chicago Cubs, and they will have the chance for the sweep here on Wednesday. My goodness, what a win for the Brewers. 5-2 over the Chicago Cubs. They had a lot of opportunities, a lot of traffic on the bases. They weren't able to punch as many across it as they could have. Left a couple of guys there in scoring position. But Garrett Mitchell comes through big early. Then you get a couple more runs after that. Bryce Terang adds some insurance later on in the game with a 2-run homer. Opposite field, Oppo Taco on a Taco Tuesday there in Chicago. So that was great to see. So we got that. Jacob Misiorowski insane on the mound. We'll get into that. Also, we got to talk about that left side of the infield a little bit. And some updates on some injured Brewers pitchers making their way back. But really big win for the Brewers in Chicago on Tuesday night. Kind of more of a traditional type bullpen usage for Pat Murphy. 6 innings for Jacob Misiorowski. He was at 74 pitches. We've seen him kind of try and extend a bit before. Murph told Pat Murphy, hey, I've got the 6. I'll be good with that, but probably not going to have the 7th. So it's okay. Then you go to Trevor McGill there for the 7th inning. Aaron Ashby for the 8th. Ashby runs into some trouble, and he's not quite able to get through it. So Pat Murphy goes to bullpen Chad Patrick. Back again. He is electric out of the bullpen, able to get the ground ball out, get out of the threat there in the 8th. And then Abner Uribe closes it down in the 9th inning. Overall, a great win for the Brewers. Again, they left some meat on the bone there in terms of run totals, but they got enough to secure the win. And now they have a chance for the sweep. You've taken 2 of 3. You've taken the series already. Now you can really kind of bury them. You're up a half game in the National League Central. Again, the Cubs have still played 3 more games than you, but you have 2 fewer losses now on the season. So the Brewers can put themselves a game and a half ahead of the Cubs at the end of this series if they're able to complete the sweep. Kyle Harrison on the bump for the Brewers, so that does give you a pretty good shot heading into Wednesday night's game. So you love to see it. The Brewers back in their rightful place. The Cubs obviously jumped out to a really good start. They had that 15-game home winning streak at Wrigley, and they were kind of able to jump out pretty big there. But the Brewers have been on a really great run as of late, being able to secure these wins, and they are keeping the line moving here, despite not really playing their best baseball overall as a group. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't individual players playing some of their best baseball, such as Jacob Misiorowski, who just continues to dominate, as we've seen, and continues to amaze, putting up some really, really good numbers. 6 innings, and just absolute electric factory once again for Jacob Misiorowski. Just being able. He didn't have the 103s quite as much in Chicago. It's kind of more around the 99 to 101 range, so lost a little bit on his fastball there, but still able to be effective, still able to get the strikeouts, gets 8 of them, and still able to just stymie those Cubs hitters. And it was just a thing of beauty. He's painting corners, at this kind of velocity. 6 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts there. His ERA is down to 1.89 on the season. Misiorowski hasn't given up an extra base hit in over a month. Legitimately, it has been over a month. And Kurt Hogue had this tweet that he put out there with this very, very fun nugget of information for Misiorowski. The fact that Miz is the first player in Major League Baseball history. This is going back to the 1800s. The first pitcher in Major League history to have 5 straight starts of 8+ strikeouts and no extra base hits allowed. He hasn't allowed an extra base hit in, again, over a month. April 14th, I believe it was, he has struck out 44 batters in that time. And that from our friend Kurt Hogue at the Journal-Sentinel. And then you look at, I mean, there was this great story that Mike Petriello of MLB.com put out. I mean, just the sheer stuff, the sheer speed that he is throwing these baseballs. We have never seen anything like this. And as much as you might want to believe that Cy Young or Nolan Ryan threw 108 miles an hour back in the day, I think it's unlikely that they actually threw that velocity compared to what Jacob Misiorowski is throwing here. So in this pitch tracking era, what Misiorowski has done is unprecedented. Just looking at this year, there for 100 plus mile an hour pitches thrown by starters, every other starting pitcher in Major League Baseball combined has 149 pitches above 100 miles an hour. Jacob Misiorowski himself has 233. Like, what? 39% of his fastballs in his career, which has been brief to this point, but still, 39% of his fastballs in his career have been 100 miles an hour or higher. The next highest career rate since 2008 from a regular starter is Hunter Green at 17%. Miz is at 39%. The next closest is at 17%. And then after that, 14%. No one else is above 10%. Miz is at 39%. And that's all time. That's not even just this year. I mean, it is just stupid what he is doing at that velocity. Even when he doesn't have, as big a velocity, didn't have the 103 quite as much on Tuesday night, to still be able to do that. I mean, in the pitch tracking era, to have this velocity, because again, prior to this, I really don't think anyone was actually throwing 100 plus that regularly. It may have looked that way, but I don't think it actually was. And also, an important thing to keep in mind, Jacob Misiorowski gets elite extension down the mound. He is 6'7", coming down the mound. And, I mean, the way, his stride length, where he's releasing that baseball, it is much closer to home plate than anyone else releasing a baseball. So his 103 is looking more like 105, 106 to hitters, because it's not 60 feet 6 inches as they get to see that baseball. It is more like 54 feet that they're able to see that baseball. That's insane. It is just incredible what he continues to put up. It is remarkable. What we are seeing before our very eyes has never been seen before in baseball history. So keep that in mind every time Jacob Misiorowski is out there on the bump, because it is something incredible. And he gives the Brewers 6 shutout innings once again, 4th straight start. He has a scoreless streak of 24 1/3 innings, and that, the way he's pitching, I mean, that's only going to get extended. I mean, it is just absurd what he is doing there, which is why when you look at that game, you kind of wonder why the odds weren't better there on Kalshi for the Brewers to end up winning that game. But on Kalshi, you can trade every single game. And as we were kind of talking about, hey, that 1.5 runs there for the Brewers to keep it going. What do you know? Another win by 1.5 runs over the Cubs, and you'd be winning a whole bunch of cash, just like I talked about yesterday, just like we talked about. So, I'm trying to help you guys out here. Using code FANARCHBASEBALL, you get $10 when you trade 10, helps you get started. And certainly a lot to look at here. With this Brewers Cubs finale, are you believing in the momentum here? Are you believing in the sweep? Do you think it's going to happen? They're going to keep up this run scoring that they've been able to have. So you look back, Brewers to win by 1.5 runs. The odds for that are at 36% right now. So that means a $100 trade pays out $258 with a win, with the Brewers winning by 1.5 runs or more. And that's what they've done for the entirety of this series. And if you're believing in the sweep, why not? and use code FANARCHBASEBALL there to get you started, because on Kalshi you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house, and as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code FANARCHBASEBALL to get started, to get $10 when you trade 10, Kalshi, Kalshi, trade on anything. Okay, so the other part of this group that people are talking about, besides Jacob Misiorowski, because we all love talking about Jacob Misiorowski and how great he is, but the flip side of that, there's the left side of the infield for the Brewers. And it is just continually being not great. Luis Rengifo, David Hamilton, Joey Ortiz are the trio that is playing over there on the left side. And you're not getting good offense really from anyone in that group. And then you see the defensive struggles. David Hamilton got the start at shortstop on Tuesday night. First inning, ground ball. It was a hot shot, but it was a ground ball right to him. Should have been a double play, and he boots it. It ends up being, 2 runners on, nobody out for Misiorowski in that first inning. Takes him 26 pitches to work through it. Avoided any damage, but still a very, kind of costly error there in terms of pitch count. Who knows, maybe Miz would have had enough energy to make it through to the 7th inning had it not been for those extra, 15, 20 pitches he had to throw in that first inning because of that error. And then also late in the game, you see a hot shot over to Luis Rengifo over at third, and he boots it. It ends up, going as a single, but that was a play that I think should have been made, and it allowed a run to score for the Chicago Cubs. So now you're having defensive miscues between those guys over there on the left side of the infield. I know everyone raves about Joey Ortiz's defense, and he has been great. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But the offense hasn't really been there. And for David Hamilton, the offense has not been there, and it has been almost entirely reliant on the bunt, which is incredibly wild to me, how reliant David Hamilton is on the bunt. He has 24 hits this season, 22 of them singles, because of course they are. 9 of those singles are bunts. 9 of 22 are bunts. That is, if you do the quick math here, 40.9% of his bunts. So you got 40%, 41% of his base hits, of his singles, are bunts. And it's like, look, I mean, you can look at bunting as a skill there that's important to have, and that's great and all, but when it's all the time, I mean, it just kind of like when you're playing Little League, when you're playing, high school, middle school, whatever grade you're playing, if you're the dude that bunts all the time, you're just not that good of a hitter. And I can say that because I was one of those kids that liked to bunt, and I was not a good hitter, okay? I bunted a lot because I felt that was my best chance to make decent contact, and most of the time they were playing back, anyways, and no one could really field a bunt that well, so that's why I did it. And sure enough, I was not a great hitter, okay? That's what it turned out to be. I'll admit it. I was a pitcher, okay? I knew that. So, yeah, it's a struggle there. And then when you have the defensive issues there at short, you can't have that. Defensive issues at third, can't have that. That's probably the quickest way to get change on this left side of the infield here for the Brewers. If you start having defensive miscues from those guys, that's going to force change for the Brewers more than anything. Because they'll deal with you struggling on the offensive end and trying to figure it out there if you're providing a good glove out in the field. But if you're not doing that, if you're making a couple of those mistakes, I think the Brewers are going to be far more willing to make a change. Now, Adam McKelvey, good friend of mine over at MLB.com, he had an article go up as well talking about basically this whole situation. When is the right time to make that change? Because Jet Williams and Cooper Pratt have been doing really, really well down in AAA Nashville as of late, and your guys on the left side of the infield up in the majors have not been doing well. So when is going to be that time to make a change? And, they're talking about, it's like, you never really kind of know exactly the right time. But also it kind of seemed like the way that they're talking about it, that it could be fairly soon. I think it should be fairly soon. I could absolutely very strongly envision, this being done by the beginning of June here. But by the end of this month, I could very easily see one of Pratt or Williams, maybe even both, getting called up to the major leagues, and the Brewers giving them a shot at some everyday playing time and getting some runway there. I would imagine Cooper Pratt would get the first call just because he signed that $50 million deal, but you also can't ignore what Jet Williams has done down there. And if you want to make kind of a wholesale change on that left side, then you'd probably call up both, because Pratt's going to be your shortstop if that would be the case, and Williams would be the third baseman in that scenario. Just because, obviously they signed Pratt to the deal. They love his defense at short. Williams has been playing largely at third down there in Nashville, so I would imagine that would be his spot up in Milwaukee, provided that he ends up getting the call. But, I mean, he's been a lot better than Brock Wilken, to be sure, so that time has got to be coming soon, I would imagine. And when you have those defensive mishaps, that's what's going to force this change quicker than anything else, quicker than any slump, any golden sombrero, any 0 for 4, any 0 for 8, whatever stretch, any bad at-bats. Defensive problems are going to be what forces this change more than any of that. So that is something absolutely to keep an eye on there. Also, keeping our eye on the injured pitchers that the Brewers have, and some updates with them as they are on the mend and trying to get their way back that the Brewers need. So that's Brandon Woodruff, that's Quinn Priester, that is Jared Koenig, who are on the mend here trying to get back to this big league pitching staff. And, some concerns here that I have. Quinn Priester, he is going to join the Nashville Sounds out in Durham, North Carolina this week, and he is going to have his next rehab start scheduled for Thursday night down there in Durham for the Nashville Sounds. And his last rehab start went very poorly. All of his rehab starts to this point have gone very poorly. He has lacked command. He has lacked feel for his pitches, which, as Pat Murphy has talked about, is kind of to be expected with a nerve issue that he's had in his wrist, and basically kind of throughout his arm. But I'm just worried, throwing him back out there again, it's probably going to be some more poor results for Priester. As much as I hate to say it, it's probably going to be another bad outing. I just wonder how much longer are they actually going to keep doing this until they actually just kind of force him to get the surgery. Is it going to be another setback, another shoulder soreness or something else, where they ultimately shut it down? Or is it, how long are they willing to wait for that stuff to return from being rehab? Because, guys get the surgery and come back pretty well from thoracic outlet. Trying to rehab it and avoid the surgery, that's kind of a bit tougher of a track record there. So, but Priester is scheduled for 5 ups, 75 pitches on Thursday night for AAA Nashville. Brandon Woodruff, meanwhile, trying to come back to this rotation as well. He's going to have a 3-inning live BP, 45 to 50 pitches ahead of the Brewers starting their series against the Los Angeles Dodgers when they return home there to American Family Field. So he's going to have 3 innings live BP there. Also, you're going to have Jared Koenig throw 20 pitches in a live BP as well. So I'm guessing they're going to alternate a little bit there. But Jared Koenig working his way back, facing some live hitters. So that is good to see for him. So he's going to have 20 pitches for that live BP on Friday. And then also, this isn't one of the pitchers, but Brandon Lockridge had his stitches removed from his right knee. So his timeline is still mid to late June. But the stitches are out, so that knee is healing. That bone bruise is healing. And he's progressing forward there, trying to get Brandon Lockridge back in the lineup. But, Woodruff, he's trying to avoid a rehab assignment. So it'll be very important to see how that live BP goes on Friday. Quinn Priester, I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be seeing how that rehab start goes, but I'm not expecting much. And Jared Koenig could be back sooner rather than later. I would imagine if this live BP goes well, that we'll see him head to Nashville on rehab fairly soon. But Brewers have a chance for a sweep here on Wednesday against the Chicago Cubs and secure their place in first in the NL Central. They're already there, but can they hold on to it? We shall see, and we'll be breaking it down here on Brewers Daily, so be sure to subscribe, get notified every single time a new episode drops, and follow me on Twitter at dgasper24. Thank you for listening and watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow for another episode of Brewers Daily.